Strength, courage, love, belonging, hope. These are the words that come to mind when I think of our final speaker today. I am honored to introduce Kalem Joseph Robert Moses, an up-and-coming hip-hop artist born and raised right here in Moose Jaw. As he shares his personal journey, I hope he inspires hope within you as he has in me over the last few months. Kalem is a bereaved son, a loving father of two, who has lived and learned the disease of addiction. He is focused on speaking and helping other recovering addicts, continuing to work through a 12-step program, and produces music while gaining custody of his children. He is just completing his recovery album, Gift of Desperation. Please join me in welcoming to our Hope Summit stage, Kalem Big Mo Moses.
Thank you, Dee. And I would also like to thank Della and everyone from the Hope Summit having me come share my experience, strength, and hope with everyone. My name is Kalem Moses. I was born here in Moose Jaw, January 27th, 92. And I'm here to share my experience with the disease of addiction and recovery. Ever since I was an infant, up to age 5, I had lived with my mother. My mother was an Indigenous woman who was single, who struggled with addiction, and was on welfare. And that being said, growing up, I got bullied. I got bullied for being an Indigenous boy with a single mother who drank and used drugs all the time. So now I understand that it's not the drugs that make an addict. The drugs for me were only a temporary solution. It was the need to escape reality, which had happened at a very young age. Being bullied and being through a few catastrophic things as a very young kid, I didn't like who I was. I was ashamed for being Indigenous. I was ashamed to be in my own skin. I didn't want to be myself anymore. I was more or less raised in a biker mentality household and a bunch of adults drinking and using drugs. So I ended up having my first beer at age 5. It wasn't long after that my mother had lost custody of me, and I moved over to my grandparents' house on the other side of town. Now, believe me, we'd all think that, hey, that's great news, right? And believe me, I am forever grateful that they did take me in and I lived with them. But going from a single mother who was struggling with addiction over to my grandparents, who was a sociably acceptable household where there was a man and a woman working to keep a family together, I felt alienated. I felt like I was an outsider. Although they showed me all the love and kindness that I needed as a child, I felt disconnected. Wasn't long after that going through school, a new school, where there was a bunch of kids who had families, who had a mother and a father that both worked. I felt very disconnected from everybody. I felt different. I had the thoughts as a young kid, what was wrong with me? Why don't I have my father and my mother? Why do I have to live with my grandparents? By age 8, I had smoked my first joint of cannabis, and I felt that sensation, what it did to me. It made me feel different. I didn't have to feel like I didn't want to be here anymore. I fell in love with it. By age 12, 13, like I said, I've been through a few catastrophic things as a very young child. Something else happened, and I talk about it more in my new album, but I like to say that I thought it was God punishing me for these things that had happened, these things that I was involved with. That made me want to escape even more. I started eating lots. I started doing everything I could to try to stop thinking about what I've been through. Fast forwarding a little bit to high school, I'm not going to touch too much. You understand how teenagers are, high school kids. Drinking, I thought it was very normal. We go out and we'd go party, especially being on a football team, that was kind of hand in hand. But for me, it went from drinking one day on the weekend to all weekend. Next thing you know, by grade 10, I'm using drugs and drinking every day. And I went from there, and it progressed. And I went into drug dealing. Then I went into gangs. I was gang affiliated. It progressed very quickly. 2010, March 25th, my mother had died from an overdose. And up to that point, everything that I was doing, I felt like I was invincible. That's what the drugs and alcohol made me feel. I was invincible. Nothing could touch me. Well, when my mother had died, I got a rude awakening. And it was at that point that I realized I need to be desperate here because I could die. My mother was very young when she had died from an overdose. So instead of staying home with my family, and mourning over her death, I did what I always do. I ran away. I went and binged in a small little town where nobody could really find me. I could escape. That binge led me into one of my worst committed offense with the police. I thought I was doing jail time. By the grace of my Creator, I didn't. I got a second chance. So I tried to go to detox. I tried to show him, okay, I got to do something new here. Let's go to detox. Let's try this recovery thing out. Didn't last very long. I wasn't ready. I moved in desperation to a big city, tried to work a big new job, get involved in work, get away from the old crowd. And within that time, March 26th, 2011, my very handsome son was born, Carter James Moses. And I've been with the mother of my kids for about 4 years on and off. It was a toxic relationship. We've both been through a lot, right? So having a new kid brought a lot of joy. This is going to change things. This is going to make things good. Well, if you've been young and you've had a kids, you would know it didn't get a whole lot better. It got a lot harder. Well, I went back to the big cities and I tried to manage as much as I could and make the money, be a real man like my grandfather, and provide for my family. Well, third year of being there, for me, I can't run away from what I have going on. I ended up running into a gang. I ended up getting into the hard drugs again. So again, in desperation, I moved back to Moose Jaw. That is when I got into the kitchen industry. And I don't know if a lot of you know or not, but kitchen and drugs and alcohol go hand in hand. So where I was trying to justify and say, hey, things are going to be good here, I'll be doing good, I knew they were going to get worse, and they did. Being in detox, I learned a little bit about my disease, and the disease is that it's a chronic, progressive, and fatal disease. Okay? I understood that those words were used. I didn't understand what those words meant. My disease did progress, right? And it was becoming more and more fatal to me. By November 10th, 2014, we had a beautiful daughter, Genesis Rose Moses. Now, we named her Genesis in hopes that she would be new beginnings, that this was going to be a fresh new start. And I would love to say that it was, but it wasn't. Things got worse. The pressure on my shoulders of being a father that could provide for my family got worse, and I used that as justifying for me going out, start selling more drugs again, when really I was basically partying. It was the trapped cycle that I was in. 2015, the mother of my kids and myself ended up breaking up again, what felt like it was the last time. And I would like to share this next song I would perform with. It basically explains the last few months of my addiction and how devastating it was for me. This song is off of my new album, Gift of Desperation. It is ironically called G.O.D., Gift of Desperation. And I would like to give a huge shout out to Jared Robinson, who produced the song and the album, Nebulous Entertainment, as well as Samantha Cole, who featured on this song. I would cheat, had me down on my knees, looking up, saying, Lord, please, save me.
And in my hopeless state, I was left with the gift of desperation.
Age 24, he lost everything that he had, except for his grandparents, uncle, brother. He was mad that life he was living, would he be able to grasp? Would the wife he was giving his life to ever want to take him back? They were lost. She went from weed to coke, coke to crack, crack to meth. There were cops, had to let the seeds go, so he's back to the bad habits again. The disease raised the stakes, so he needs to pray. He gave faith that his music will help with the pain in his brain. Screaming, will it ever go away? Telling his heart that he should forever feel ashamed for the things he did to his kids and his family. From painless kid, he admits wasn't very manly. Left standing on his own, feeling alone, left with God on his throne. The meeting was cold. I would lie, I would cheat, had me down on my knees, looking up, saying, Lord, please, save me.
And in my hopeless state, I was left with the gift of desperation.
Hopeless, the pride, the only things on his mind. Open to find any way out of this bind. Yet it's hard to see when you're feeling sovereignly. Bodily, you feel your demons had committed robbery. It's poverty in your own sanctuary. It wants monarchy, someone legendary. It's not you, it says, so you lose control. It's you got you locked up, so you cruise with ego. We know the people, stay up in the steeple. Watch where we go, I'm not evil, I'll be your hero. Trust me, for I know what's best. We'll keep on busting until we got a hole in your chest. That's what the people want, that's what the people get. Our credo has a plot, be gleeful, no one will ever forget your name. Everyone posting R.I.P. Your fame is what we're toasting to after your D.I.E. I would lie, I would cheat, I'd be down on my knees, looking up, saying, Lord, please, save me.
And in my hopeless state, I was left with the gift of desperation.
Thank you. It was January 1st, 2016, when we ended up losing custody of our kids. And I would love to say that's when I had the determination to get into recovery, but it still wasn't. It really enhanced the need to escape. Now I just did something my mother did, and I said that I would never do it. Thoughts of suicidal did come to mind, but instead, I slowly decided to kill myself. I used heavier drugs. I used more drugs. I got to the point where I started owing a bunch of dealers money I didn't have. And that's where I found the gift of desperation. The gift of desperation, symbol. A wonderful man, Jared Robinson, came up with my album cover right there. And I didn't tell him what to do, he made it himself. And I found myself staring at this album. And I don't know if many of you can see, but it is me swimming to the top of the water while there's a chain down here wrapped around my foot. I'm looking at this picture, and what does it mean to me? The disease of addiction is that chain. It has kept control of me for many years. Now I ask you, what is the water? Do any of you know? Water is life. When the disease of addiction has a chain wrapped around my leg and life gets to be too much, you find yourself drowning, suffocating, not knowing what to do. Gift of desperation broke that chain for me. That's where I decided to go to detox for the last time. March 1st, 2016. I decided that I got so desperate that I needed to do something. It was either life or death. So I went to detox, and this time I went to treatment after, which I had never done. And while I was in treatment, I met these other people in a 12-step program meeting. And the amazing thing was, I heard other recovering addicts talk about my story through their own words. Said, that's impossible. Only I've been through that. But I wasn't. They told me that an addict, any addict, can stop using drugs, lose the desire to use, and find a new way of life. They also told me that if I chose to go to this 12-step meeting, after treatment that I would never have to be alone again. And that filled my heart right there. That was enough for me to chase it. I got out of treatment. I did what was suggested to me. I got a sponsor. I went to as many meetings as possible. I started working on these 12 steps towards myself to start allowing myself to heal. About 6 months being clean, I decided it's time for me to give back. It is time for me to do something. I spent a lot of time selling drugs and messing people's lives up in here in Moose Jaw. It's time that I figure out how I can fix that. I can't go to every single person and say, I'm sorry. So I decided to help start a meeting where other people are allowed to come and heal if they choose to. Sorry. I got a year clean, and life was going really good. Recovery was really strong. I was feeling very positive. The only thing that was on my mind at that point was money. Money is very low. How am I going to get my kids back? Started worrying about all this. So, again, I use desperation a lot because that's one of my favorite words. I get to that point. I decided to go down to the oil field. And I was told that it's not going to be, the grass isn't greener on that other side. Whatever. I need money. I go down to the oil field. I found myself disconnecting from the 12-step program that I've been in. I disconnected from my family. I disconnected from my kids. Seeing my kids once a month if I was lucky, sometimes once every 3 months. That built a lot of depression. That's where I came to steroids. I used steroids while I was on the oil field in hopes that if I look good on the outside, I will feel good on the inside. And I didn't. I felt worse. I spent all my money, thousands of dollars that I had saved up, blew it all at the casino within 30 minutes. I was depressed. At what cost does my happiness come? November 7th, 2017, my grandmother had passed away. And she was my rock. It's been almost a year since she passed away. And it was one of the hardest things next to losing custody of my kids. And I promised her that I wouldn't use any drugs in her behalf. So I did what was suggested. I did what my literature in our 12-step program suggests. Instead of using anything for an excuse, live life on life's terms. Go to meetings, talk to other recovering addicts, talk to a sponsor. There's going to be somebody that has been through what you've been through and got through it clean. Learn how they did it. So I did. I didn't use on her behalf. It hasn't been easy in recovery. Things get harder sometimes. And I'm not going to sit here and say that life gets better because that'd be a lie. You get hit with a lot of stuff when you're in recovery, and you have to deal with it without using drugs after using drugs for many years. That's how you cope with life. But the thing is you get better at dealing with life. Then life gets better. Today, I get to see my kids at least once a month. Now, that is no screaming hooray for me, and I got a long way to go to get them back, but that's a lot better than where I was at a year ago. and my connection with my kids is way stronger than it was when they were living with me. And that means more to me than anything else. I get opportunities to come to the Hope Summit and speak. You know, I have a few other opportunities that have just arisen. These are the gifts of recovery. Today is different. Today I love myself, along with everyone else. I don't wish to inflict pain to myself anymore. I'm no longer consumed by this obsessive compulsive disease. I am far from perfect, only a little bit healthier than I was yesterday. The biggest gift I have received in recovery today is the freedom from the insidious, destructive mind that this disease of addiction forms. And today, just for today, I am free from the chaos of addiction. I know who I am today. I am a recovering addict, an amazing father, one of the greatest influential, determined, hardworking hip-hop MCs. Best at my craft, best at my skill. I am a loving, human, God-sent angel. My spirit animal is the alpha black panther. My spirit name is Sweetgrass Man Standing. I am Kalem Joseph Robert Moses, a.k.a. Big Mo. Thank you.